I've always known it well. Willow was just a bed buddy, a woman I could fool around with. But never someone I'd marry. So when Willow got drunk and called me to pick her up that night, I saw her in disheveled clothes. Some guy getting handsy beside her. And felt absolutely nothing. But then she hooked her arms around my neck, gave me a seductive smile, and said, "Just a game, don't overthink it." I pried her hand off my neck, looked her in the eyes and said, word by word, "I know, but don't call me again. I'm getting engaged next month. My fiancée gets jealous and petty. If she finds out I came to see you, I'll never hear the end of it." Chapter 1. Willow smiled and handed me a black Russian. "Thanks, Mr. Wong, for coming to celebrate my new bar opening despite your busy schedule." Just as I took the drink, a trendy young guy passed by us, leaned in, and kissed Willow on the cheek. "Congrats on the opening, boss lady," he said. "Great drinks. Just a shame your name's not on the menu." Willow giggled. "Wouldn't want you getting drunk too fast, would we?" He walked away, leaving a trail of boozy air behind. Willow glanced at me, and for once, offered an explanation. "He's my good friend's little brother. We weren't in an official relationship. So she didn't owe me any explanation. I just gave a nonchalant hum in reply." Willow laughed. As charming and seductive as ever, she stood up with her glass in hand, walked over with wine still on her lips and kissed me, like a temptress born to lead people astray. She'd chosen this dark, hidden corner herself. The lighting was dim and hazy. Barely anyone noticed us. She straddled me. My fingers ran through her long hair, brushing the ends as I asked casually, "When did you dye it red?" Willow gave a soft smile. Felt nostalgic. "Don't you like it?" I didn't answer. As the music ended, she rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "After all these years, if you confess to me next Valentine's Day, let's be together." But I didn't hear that sentence, because I was looking at a message my mom had just sent me. "Anna's back in town. Come to the old house tomorrow to meet her." Willow asked, "What are you reading?" She didn't try to peek at my phone. We'd always respected each other's privacy. I gave a brief answer. "My mom's setting me up." Willow chuckled. "You're actually going? Thought you hated arranged marriages." I shook my head. "Gotta show up. Just for appearances." Her smile faded. She gripped my shirt tighter. "Got a picture of her?" I raised a brow. "Why?" Willow said, "Want to see if she's prettier than me." I sighed. She doesn't like taking photos, and I haven't seen her in a while. No idea what she looks like now. There was something I didn't say. "What does it matter to you anyway?" Not getting the answer she wanted, Willow answered herself. "She's definitely not as pretty as me." Her breath tickled my ear. "Wanna go upstairs? Or maybe, my place?" It was a clear invitation, and with her beauty right in front of me, I had no reason to say no, so I nodded. Above Willow's bar, there was a private bedroom just for her. I looked around at the cozy, sweet decor and laughed. Bet a lot of people have been here before. Willow's face darkened. She frowned and said, "What are you talking about? The bar just officially opened today. Everything's new, and I haven't been messing around with anyone lately either." I had crossed a line. Who she slept with was none of my business, so I quickly apologized and calmed her down. Only then did she kiss me again with a smile. I met Willow when I was studying in the US. Back then, I was into music, so I joined a band on campus as a guitarist. Willow was the lead singer. Bright red hair pulled into a high ponytail. Messy, but stylish. Bold eyeshadow. Long lashes. Striking lips. Her whole face was unapologetically radiant. Under the stage lights, she looked like fire in the wind. Gorgeous and impossible to look away from. Among all the women in my circle, Willow had the best looks and body. And every time she appeared, the crowd would go wild. I took advantage of being close and scored first, slept with her right after one of her shows. Chapter 2. I really liked her back then, and Willow responded with the same enthusiasm. You could say her room was a total mess that night. From the floor to the couch to the bed, nowhere escaped the chaos of that battle. When I woke up the next day, Willow was facing the mirror, dabbing concealer onto her strawberry marks. She asked, half annoyed and half amused, "Are you part mosquito or something?" I shook my head and sat up, trying to wake myself up. She rolled her eyes and said, "Then you must be part dog." I checked my phone. It was already past 10 a.m. I said, "Let's make it official. Should I come up with a caption or do you want to write some lyrics?" Willow suddenly turned to look at me. She seemed a little stunned, but then she let out a chuckle. She asked, "Wait, do you think we're actually dating?" I thought about it. She accepted my gifts on both Valentine's Day and Christmas this year, and in our chats she often flirted with me. So I asked in confusion, "Aren't we?" Willow lazily stretched her arms. She said, "Of course not. I'm all about staying single, you know." I lit a cigarette and asked, "Then what exactly are we right now?" Willow squinted at me for a moment, then blinked and said, Let's call it bed buddies. As she got dressed, I watched her stunning figure and carefully mulled over that novel term. Bed buddy. Yeah, it fits. Willow is gorgeous, but she loves to play around way too much. Being a bed buddy really suits her best. A girl who plays this hard is definitely not girlfriend material. So I put out my cigarette and pulled out my phone. I changed Willow's contact name to Bed Buddy. Chapter 3. But I really didn't expect that Willow's party girl lifestyle wouldn't change even after we graduated and returned home. I took over my family's company and started working seriously. She, on the other hand, had a brother, and her parents gave her more than enough allowance. She didn't need to work and still spent her days clubbing, drinking, and dancing. Eventually, Willow finally found something to do. She had her parents buy her a place in a prime location, which she transformed into a bar according to her own taste. It finally opened yesterday. I got out of bed and glanced at my phone. 7 a.m. Time to get ready for work. After finishing the morning's tasks, I planned to go to the old house. As I was getting dressed, Willow hugged me in a sleepy daze. She pouted. It's still so early, come back to bed for a bit. I chuckled. My company doesn't open at 10 p.m. like your bar. She finally opened her eyes, a little annoyed and a bit passive-aggressive. She said, so spending the night with President Wang, the ever-busy man, was a waste of your precious rest time, huh? I patted her cheek and said, glad you understand. Willow stared at me for a second, her face half buried in the blanket as she watched me get up and leave. She said, you're really going? Can't you just? I was putting on my jacket and turned back to hear the rest, but she suddenly gave a light, breezy smile. She said, go ahead. I can just wiggle my finger and have another guy come over. I just met someone new, and he. I raised my hand to cut her off. Whatever makes you happy. I'm leaving. As I closed the door, I saw Willow reaching for her phone on the bedside table. Around 2 p.m., I drove back to the old house. First thing, Mom gave me a long lecture, all about childhood sweethearts and family ties. She even said Anna was the perfect daughter-in-law, elegant in public, skilled in the kitchen. I couldn't help but laugh. Willow was right. I really have no interest in arranged marriages. I said, Mom, I'd still rather find someone on my own. But the next second, I held my breath, because Anna had just walked in through the side door. My little childhood sweetheart had seriously grown up. She may be young, but she's definitely well-developed where it counts. Chapter 4. After a few years apart, Anna had grown into a stunning beauty with delicate features and a graceful figure. Her facial features were soft and elegant, and when she smiled, there was a tender charm in it. That gentle aura stood in stark contrast to her eye-catching, sexy figure wrapped in a tight camisole dress. Noticing my gaze, Anna's ears turned slightly red. It was kind of cute. I suddenly smiled and changed the subject. Long time no see. The weather's great today. How about we go for a walk? While strolling through the garden, Anna was the first to speak. She said, you must have been exhausted from work all these years. You really need someone by your side to take care of you. But I'm so jealous of her. Her eyes dimmed a little as she said that. I asked, confused. You think I have a girlfriend? Anna looked at me, surprised. Don't you? You've always been popular with girls. I smiled and shook my head. Nope. I've been single this whole time. Anna took a breath, her chest gently rising and drawing a tight curve beneath the fabric. I blurted out, you've really grown into a big girl. She blushed instantly. She might look like a sultry queen, but deep down she was still a shy, innocent girl. She bit her lip and softly said, I bought this dress because you recommended it on WeChat. I mean, who doesn't love tight dresses, black stockings, and bare shoulders? Thinking of all the wild stuff I used to post about women, I cleared my throat awkwardly. Of course, I wouldn't do that now. I looked at her and half-jokingly asked, so, did you wear this just for me? Hearing that, Anna blushed even harder, turned her face away, and avoided my eyes without answering. I leaned in slightly and brushed the back of my hand against her cheek. Her skin was soft and smooth. I asked, why, do you like me? She could have easily pushed me away with one hand, but she stood frozen like I had her under some spell. Anna bit her rosy lip. She said, I'm not trying to seduce you. I just want you to know that I'm not a little girl anymore. So, could you give me a chance to be with you? The later she spoke, the softer her voice got. I could barely hear her. I asked, what was that? Anna shut her eyes like she was making a big decision, and said with resolve, fine, I like you. After saying it, she looked like even she couldn't believe it. Then, looking at me again, she quietly added, I've liked you for a long time. I chuckled lightly and took a step back. Anna thought that meant I was rejecting her, and her face went pale, but then she heard me say, you're still young. I won't mess around with you, but dating, we can give it a shot. And just like that, Anna became my little girlfriend. Her possessiveness grew by the day. She loved checking up on me, got jealous easily, and always snooped through my phone. After realizing I wasn't pleased, She stood in my office, hands behind her back, looking all apologetic as she lowered her head and explained. This is my first time in a relationship. I didn't know this kind of thing would upset my boyfriend. I won't do it again. I walked over, pinched her chin, and gave her a kiss. I said, "Good girl. All the people around me are trusted, no scandalous affairs. Okay, stop overthinking." Getting her reward. Anna couldn't help but smile. She said, "Okay," but then she suddenly thought of something and added stubbornly, "That woman with the last name Lou doesn't count. She has to go." I let out a low chuckle. "All right, we'll get rid of her." Her eyes sparkled as she threw herself at me, wrapping herself around me and kissing me passionately. Good thing I stopped just in time. Any later and who knows what I might have ended up doing in the office. But speak of the devil, Willow, who hadn't contacted me much these past 2 weeks, suddenly popped up. That very night, at 11 p.m., just when I was about to go to sleep, I got a call from her. Squinting at the screen, I took a while to recognize the number. Because Anna had sneakily changed her contact name from bed buddy to toxic mistress, I answered with a smile. On the other end, the background was loud and chaotic, mixed with flirtatious voices of men and women. Willow's voice was as casual as ever. She said, "I'm drunk. George, come pick me up." Then she casually mentioned the name of a club we used to go to. I replied, "All right, wait there. I'm coming." Her tone was sticky and slurred. She said, "Okay, I'll wait for you." It was time to say goodbye. Chapter 5. When I got to the club, a waiter led me to the private room where Willow was. The blaring music was deafening, nearly blowing out my eardrums. Willow looked dazed, half reclining in the booth. Her makeup was still glamorous but noticeably smudged. She was surrounded by a mix of men and women. Someone was topping off her drink, and someone else had a hand shamelessly resting on her thigh, caressing it back and forth. Willow had always been pretty uninhibited, but this kind of debauchery was rare even for her. Her dress was all crumpled, the neckline half open, showing a glimpse of her pale chest, with a few suggestive red marks spreading up her neck. Noticing my frown, Willow reached out and hooked her arm around my neck, laughing softly. "George, we were just playing a game. I lost, so they kissed me a few times. No big deal." I relaxed my expression a little, took her hand off me, and helped adjust her dress. "But," I said, as her smile slowly faded, "I know, but don't call me again after this. I'm getting engaged next month." She's the jealous and sensitive type, and if she finds out I came to see you, she'll be hard to calm down. Willow's lips were still curved into a smile, but she looked at me in panic. She asked, "You're joking, right? That's not funny at all. Don't say things like that again." I shook my head. "I'm not joking. Next month, I'm entering a political marriage with the Sioux family's daughter." The color drained from her face. The corners of her eyes and lips trembled slightly. I couldn't tell what kind of expression she was trying to make. I said, "What's wrong? I'm not that young anymore. It's time I settle down. Isn't getting engaged the normal thing to do?" Willow rushed to echo me. "Right, just a business marriage. Totally normal." She touched her reddened eyes, closed them, and after a moment, said, "I'm tired. Take me home." The home she was talking about was the luxury Riverview apartment I had rented for her. She had her own place, of course, but she insisted on staying there. Maybe because we'd slept together there too many times. I unlocked the keypad and helped her inside. I hadn't visited this apartment in months. Willow had added lots of her own decorations, artwork, knickknacks. The whole vibe had changed. I said, "You should move out before next month. I won't charge you rent, but take all your stuff with you." Willow slowly turned her head to look at me. She asked, "Why?" I pressed the remote, closed the curtains, and turned on the night light. I said, "I'm getting engaged. Shouldn't I cut things off with you?" She propped her cheek on one hand and smiled faintly. "But it's just a business deal. There's no love involved. Why bother cutting ties with me?" The scent of her perfume mixed with the alcohol, that decadent, intoxicating smell that always defined Willow to me. She leaned in without hesitation, trying to kiss me. Back at the club, I already noticed she had a fever. I pushed her away and said, "You're sick," but she just smiled, casually took off her coat, and reached to undo my tie. She said, "We've known each other for so long. You think you can just walk away that easily?" I caught her hand. Her long hair spilled down, and under the hazy moonlight, I could make out the upturned tails of her peach blossom eyes, and her lips, flushed even in the dark. She had already slipped her silk shirt halfway off, revealing her fair, smooth left shoulder. In this seductive atmosphere, she really did seem like one of those fox spirits from ancient tales, the kind that fed off men's energy and souls. That was how she used to trap me, night after night, but not tonight. My hand slid up from her slender waist. She smiled and stood on tiptoe to kiss me as usual. In the past, I wouldn't have been able to resist, but this time, I turned my head away. My hands kept moving upward, until they reached her delicate face. I gently stroked it a few times. Willow's face overlapped with the memory of that radiant, youthful girl she once was. If I had left a mark on her, I think I would have felt a bit sad, but thankfully, I hadn't. I said, "Willow, I have a girlfriend now." Chapter 6. She trembled slightly. I figured she was cold, so I helped fix her clothes, even buttoned a few for her. Her laughter faded. She said, "It's just a business marriage, no real feelings. Is it really worth going this far? So what if you're engaged? Can't we still keep having fun together?" I patted her cheek, pushed her aside, and stood up. "It's not without feelings. I actually like her. Willow, I'm really settling down this time. Let's just go our separate ways." She suddenly stood up behind me. Because of the alcohol, she couldn't keep her balance and wobbled a bit. She asked, "You're getting engaged? Then what does that make me?" I stared blankly as she lost her temper, not understanding what there was to be angry about. I said, "You're my bed buddy. Weren't you the one who said that yourself?" Willow stared at me with a terrifyingly pale face. She took a moment to catch her breath, then gritted her teeth and said, "George, do you seriously not have a heart?" Faced with this inexplicable accusation, I frowned again, but before I could even respond, my phone started ringing in my pocket. I answered, "Hey, things are a bit messy over here, but don't worry, I'll be back soon." Then I accidentally hit speakerphone. Anna's light, clear voice came from the other end. She said, "Okay then, I'll wait at home. I even made you some hangover soup, just in case. When you get back, don't forget to praise me." Willow lunged forward to grab my phone, but I hung up just in time. She clutched my arm tightly, laughing out of sheer anger. How warm and cozy. I'd love to see what kind of woman could replace me after just a few days. She let go of me, turned, and stormed toward the door. I quickly stopped her and said with a serious expression, "You should know your place. Don't go causing drama in front of her." At that, I couldn't even tell if Willow was laughing or crying anymore. She shouted, "Get out. Just get the hell out." She shoved me hard and stumbled as she forced me out the door. The sound of glass and ceramic shattering inside was muffled once the door slammed shut. I looked at the electronic lock, though I knew the code. I didn't use it. I just turned and left. We'd already said everything that needed to be said. Next time I came, it'd be to settle up the cost of the damage she'd caused. When I got home, Anna was in the kitchen wearing an apron, seriously cooking soup. It was actually her first time at my place. I was the one who asked her to come, and I'd told her beforehand, if I came back too late, to give me a call. Anna had sharp ears. As soon as she heard the door open, she turned quickly, and like a cat, darted right over. She started sniffing me for any trace of evidence. The bright curve of her smile dropped instantly. She pouted and said, "You smell like her perfume." I smiled. "You won't be smelling it anymore." Only then did Anna's smile return. She asked, "So, the woman outside, taken care of?" I nodded. She gleefully hooked her arms around my shoulders but stopped as she leaned in. Her slender fingertips brushed the corner of my mouth. Anna spoke in a raspy voice. "She kissed you. Guess there was lipstick." I thought I could hear her growling like a jealous kitten. I chuckled. Then go teach her a lesson." Anna, as if given an order, immediately turned to leave, but I pulled her into my arms, not wanting her to go. Even though I felt bad, I looked into her eyes and said, "It's late. Where are you going?" "I'm going to bed soon." She sat back down beside me like a scolded puppy, pulled out a wet wipe, and started wiping off the stain, one after another. She kept wiping. Only after the fifth one did she finally stop. While I was checking company messages, Willow's texts kept popping up non-stop, so I had to put her on Do Not Disturb. Anna was watching from the side, feeling wronged. She said, "Can't you just block her?" I pinched the bridge of my nose and said, "Too many mutual friends. Plus, her brother's still in business talks with me." Still, when Willow sent her 103rd message, I really started to think about deleting her. She was more unhinged this time than ever before. Tons of photos filled the chat window. Like a nightclub queen fighting to stay on top, she was trying everything to outshine her unseen rival. She asked, "Are you really going to give me up for her?" I was so fed up. I turned to Anna and said, "Go change into that outfit you wear most often." She pouted but went to change. She came out in a bodycon skirt that showed off her long, pale legs. My gaze moved up slowly, tracing her legs, over her slim waist, to the soft curves of her chest, and finally rested on the delicate lace choker around her neck. A lot of little touches. Even the coldest men would smile at a sight like this. I started directing her on how to stand, realizing I was going to take pictures. Anna blushed and said, "Wait a sec." She rushed into the bathroom. I looked at her, confused. As she came out with dripping wet hair, water ran down her neck and disappeared somewhere out of sight. She looked absolutely irresistible. I sighed and smiled. "You did your hair?" "I'm just taking casual photos." Anna brushed it off and struck a seductive pose like it was nothing. I tried not to laugh as I snapped several shots. Then I waved my hand. All done. I sent the pictures to Willow, my girlfriend. What do you think? Chapter 7. The photos were originally meant to shut Willow up, but instead, they triggered her like a second volcanic eruption. She messaged me furiously. Did you sleep with that obviously indecent woman? How could you do this to me? Was it the wet hair that made her think of what came after? I glanced at Anna, who was quietly drying her hair with clear, innocent eyes. Didn't expect this girl to be that crafty. Willow was already cursing by now. At that point, I had no sympathy left. I finally blocked her. Come here. I waved Anna over. She leaned in toward me, and I, not so innocently, reached out. It felt incredible to the touch. To make it easier for me, she arched her back slightly. She didn't dare look me in the eye, blushing hard, while her fingers dug deep into the couch cushion. Anna bit her lip in embarrassment and whispered, "You can now." I played dumb and asked, "Can what?" Her face turned so red it looked like she might bleed. She said, "You can do anything." I chuckled and pulled my hand back. I replied, "After we get married." Anna's disappointment was written all over her face, but she still tried to act tough. "Actually, I'm not that kind of girl. I'm really conservative." Then she suddenly snuggled into my arms and said playfully, "But it's so late now. I want to sleep over." Looking at her in that skimpy outfit, hugging a pillow while leaning against my bedroom door, I couldn't help but laugh. I asked, "What's wrong? The guest room not good enough?" She hesitated and said, "I'm scared to sleep alone." I laughed and shook my head. "Come on, that's such a terrible lie." She scooted closer to me and asked in a small voice, "So, can I sleep in your bed? That way I can get a feel for our future cohabiting life." "Fine, get in." Before I could even finish, she jumped onto the bed like a cat, excitedly rolling around under the covers. Then she pressed herself against me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and clung to me. Feeling her soft curves, my body tensed up. I instinctively pushed her away and said, "Could you please put your bra back on? Didn't you say you're super conservative?" She whined in protest and reluctantly got out of bed to put it back on. "But it's really uncomfortable to sleep in." I turned over and said as a warning, "Don't bother me, I've got work tomorrow. If you mess around, I will kick you off the bed." Anna nodded obediently and lay quietly beside me, but unconsciously, she kept inching closer and closer. I'm not some monk from a Buddhist tale who could resist temptation forever. I had to keep pushing her away again and again to keep myself in check. I finally managed to fall asleep, but I'm a light sleeper. Half asleep, I still caught Anna's murmurs. In her sleep, she muttered, "This is only the 7th time and you're already out. At least round it up to 10. I was speechless. Seriously, how am I supposed to get any sleep from now on? Chapter 8. I didn't wake up to my alarm the next morning. I woke up because Anna was lying on top of me. She was clinging to me like an octopus, making it hard to breathe. I patted her little head to wake her up, and said, looking at her innocent gaze, "Let go. I have to go to work." I was supposed to have a business meeting today with Martin, CEO of the Lou Group, which meant Willow's older brother. What I didn't expect was that Willow showed up too. She was wearing a fitted French-style dress, with faint dark circles under her eyes. Usually she wouldn't be awake until afternoon after drinking. Yet there she was at 9 a.m., sitting in my conference room, listening to me speak. If we weren't business partners with the Lou Group, I would have thought Martin brought her on purpose just to mess with my head. Throughout the entire meeting, Willow didn't say a word. She just kept staring at me. When it ended and everyone else left, she stayed behind alone. She clearly wanted to talk. She asked, "If this is about a marriage alliance, why not with me? Isn't my family background equal to hers?" Honestly, I wasn't feeling particularly generous, because I didn't feel a shred of guilt. I said, "Willow, you know I'm the eldest son of the Wong family. I was raised with all that traditional, old-school family thinking. You can fool around as much as you want, but when it comes to marriage, I need someone pure." Her lips were bitten so hard they'd turned white. She asked, "So you never intended to marry me?" "I was just something for fun." I poured myself a cup of tea. I said, "Don't make yourself sound so pitiful. We were never in a relationship." Her voice shook as she said, "If you never planned for a future with me, then why were you so good to me? Didn't you do it on purpose, to make me think I meant something to you? Why did you take care of me overseas? Why were you the only one who stayed with me when I had that car accident? Why, every time I called you, did you come to me without fail? Can you really say you never loved me?" I replied flatly, "Willow, I'm not here to recite soap opera lines, but my feelings and attitude toward you have never changed from the beginning." As I lowered my eyes, I suddenly remembered that Christmas Eve we spent together. Willow was drunk, leaning on the table, laughing so innocently. Her beautiful face glowed under the warm lights. She said, "From now on, I want to spend every Christmas Eve with you, But even then, she was tangled up with other guys. That same night, she was playing that bottle cap game with some senior student, so I figured that kind of wish didn't mean much. I said, "We're just not right for each other, but luckily, we were never officially together, so let's just stay in the friend zone from now on." Willow cried. Her skin was already pale. So when her eyes turned red, I noticed right away. She said two things. One was, "Wow, George, you're really something." The other was, "George, I hate you." I responded with nothing more than a faint nod. Honestly, I found it a little amusing. Willow had never said she loved me. But now she said she hated me. She said, "I'm not moving out. I want to buy that apartment I live in now." I sighed. "Don't be ridiculous." But Willow insisted. "I'm serious. I'll pay the highest market price." So I didn't argue. I gave silent consent. Before she left, she walked around the long conference table to my side. She naturally reached for my shoulder, just like she used to. That was always her move before trying to kiss me. I grabbed her hand to stop her. She stood very close. I could even see the teardrops clinging to her long lashes. But she didn't do anything else. She just stayed in that posture, quietly looking at me, until I heard Anna's voice, "Get away from him." I turned around and saw Anna standing at the door. She said, with a bit of hurt in her voice, "I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but she can't just do that." This was their first time meeting. Anna looked at me nervously. Willow, on the other hand, stared at her intensely. Her face was paper white, but her gaze was so sharp it looked like it might burn a hole through Anna. When Anna walked in and stood beside me, I squeezed her hand to reassure her. I said, "It's okay." Willow's eyes dropped to our interlocked hands. Her expression was dead calm, but I knew her too well. I could predict every move she made. I didn't think she'd hurt Anna, because after her storms, Willow always collapsed into this kind of silent, lifeless stillness. She looked at me one last time, said nothing, then turned and walked away. As soon as Willow left, Anna threw her arms around me tightly. She said, "I heard everything you said, even though I don't like her. I can't help feeling jealous about the time you two spent together in the past." Chapter 9. I gently patted her head and said, "There's nothing to be jealous about. Things will only get better from here." I pulled out the design plans for our engagement banquet and showed them to her. I asked, "How about calla lilies for the floral arrangements?" Anna's eyes widened slightly, and she smiled, nodding. She said, "I was really familiar with that flower as a kid, but I hardly see them now that I've grown up." On the day of our engagement party, I handed her an antique bronze key. Seeing the confused look in her eyes, I smiled and said, "I bought back the old house at the foot of the mountain, the one where your grandfather used to recover. The calla lilies there were in full bloom, so I picked some for the banquet." She took the key in surprise. She said, "That old place. It was sold after Grandpa passed away. I always thought it was a shame, but it didn't have much value." "You really didn't have to spend so much just to buy it back." I flicked her forehead lightly. I said, "How could it not be valuable? Isn't that where we first met?" Anna suddenly blushed and lowered her head. That summer, I had been sent by my parents to check on Mr. Sue. On the lawn, there was only a little girl playing with dolls. I walked over, bent down, and asked her, "Hey little one, is your grandpa home?" The little girl looked up at me, dazed. She had this adorable, spacey look. She led me to the living room, then hid behind her grandfather, secretly peeking at me. The old man chuckled. What's gotten into her? She's not usually this shy." After he said that, I couldn't even see the rest of Anna's face anymore. At the time, I thought she was just scared of me, but when I visited a few more times after that, she would hand me toys, her way of inviting me to play with her. I asked, "Did you really like me even back then?" I laughed as I gently pinched the now grown-up Anna's cheek. She lifted the bouquet of calla lilies to hide her face. Just like when she was little, always shy when facing me. Happy engagement. I turned toward the voice. Martin smiled and handed us 2 gifts. One was a traditional gift from him, a cloud-patterned silk fan, very standard. The other, he said, "Willow couldn't make it today. She asked me to bring this gift on her behalf." I opened the exquisitely wrapped box. Inside was a custom Patek Philippe watch, with its hands forever frozen. Engraved on the dial was a date, the day we officially parted ways. Time stopped at that moment. Anna came over and hugged my arm. She was clearly jealous, but still didn't dare say anything rash. I smiled and placed the watch back into its box. I said, "Thank you both for the gifts." And then, only to Anna. It's all in the past now. That very evening, Anna officially moved into my house as my fiancée, with her status raised another level. She was so overjoyed she asked me to spin her around in my arms. I flatly refused. When we got to the bedroom door, she tugged my arm and cautiously asked, "Can we sleep together tonight?" I laughed and said, "What if the answer's no?" She looked a bit hurt and pointed to the corner. Then I'll cry right here until you give in. The corners of my mouth curled up. I scooped her up in my arms and carried her inside. I said, "Ah, poor thing." I'd feel too bad. When Anna lay in bed, she was noticeably more reserved than last time. Her fingers slowly reached toward her chest, and she said shyly, "Can I take this off this time?" But I caught her hand before she could. Her clumsy attempt at seduction was cut off, and she pouted in frustration. "I can't sleep in this thing again." I rubbed her slender fingers and smiled. "I'll take it off for you." Chapter 10. I knew I wasn't getting any sleep tonight. I'm not even a fan of juice, but clearly, I'd been gifted a high-powered juicer, capable of running at full speed until sunrise. She stared at me with hazy, dreamy eyes, whispering over and over, "Love you, love you, love you." Then it turned into, more, more, more. I was absolutely exhausted. During a break, Anna's throat was sore, and she made me hold her while I fed her medicine. I was speechless. If your throat hurts, maybe talk less and lower your volume. Honestly, compared to her, I was the one who needed meds more. I felt like a dog that had just run a marathon. After clearing her throat, she said brightly, "Okay, we can go again now." I rubbed my temples and sighed. "Easy does it, pace yourself." But she tilted her head and smiled. "Nope, I'm so happy I could go crazy. You don't know how heartbroken I was when I finally worked up the courage to confess to you. And overheard you saying you liked older women." She spoke each word clearly and slowly. But even so, I didn't want to give up. I kept trying to make myself more mature, thinking maybe one day, you'd finally look my way. Anna pressed herself against me again. A new little square piece clamped between her lips, her smile impossibly pure. She said, "For you, I'm willing to learn anything, even if I have no experience. So, can we practice one more time?"